Hello, I'm Kajal Devani, Director of Science and Technology at the Canadian Angus Association. We've recently started to record feed intake data on Angus cattle and use it to produce two new EPDs that I'm excited to tell you about today. We know that production costs in Canadian beef market are high and that feed costs can contribute up to 70% of those operating costs. We measure feed intake because we know that more efficient animals help make the entire industry more sustainable and more profitable. More efficient cattle help producers make better use of their resources so that they can run more cattle on the same resources or run the same number of head using less resources. We measure feed intake data and growth over the same period because we know that we can use the information to generate EPDs for feed efficiency, and because feed efficiency is heritable, we know that we can make genetic improvement for the trait and raise cattle that have the genetic potential to be more efficient. GrowSafe did some math for us. Based on increasing average daily gain by 10%, a producer can improve their profitability by approximately 18%. Using market prices for feed, a similar increase of 10% in feed efficiency would equate to about 43% more in profits. So now that we know the why, let's have a look at the how. How do you measure cattle for feed efficiency? We measure feed intake and growth over the same period of time. GrowSafe and other companies have developed feed bunks with scales and RFID readers that allow us to measure what individual animals eat and weigh so that we can identify the animals that eat less for the same amount of gain. These are the animals that are the most efficient. The testing needs to be done when calves are 160 to 480 days of age. When the animals are put on test, they need to have a minimum of 14-day adjustment period where they get settled and learn how to use the system. Then they need to be on test for a minimum of 45 days with an in-weight and an out-weight and a mid-weight. These animals also have to be registered at the association and have a birth weight, weaning weight, and yearling weight on file. You'll need a contemporary group of a minimum of 5 animals. The data can be accessed directly from GrowSafe, or you can submit it to the association yourself. This requires some planning so that you have EPDs back in time for your selection decisions. Where can you get your cattle tested for feed intake? You can do it at Lakeland College, Olds College, the Maritime Bull Test Station, Cattleland, and there may be other facilities or bull test stations around you that are equipped with GrowSafe. Alternatively, you can contact GrowSafe directly. Once you've tested your cattle for feed intake and the data is incorporated into the Angus 1 genetic evaluations, members will receive 2 new EPDs, dry matter intake, or DMI EPD, and residual average daily gain, or RADG EPD. Both traits have relatively high heritability at 30%. This means that 30% of the variation that we see between highly efficient animals and non-efficient animals is influenced by genetics, and you can use these 2 EPDs to select for animals that have the genetic potential to be more efficient. So DMI EPD describes the amount of dry matter intake an animal is expected to eat whilst in the growing period of life. This EPD only tells you half the story though, so it needs to be used in conjunction with a growth EPD, like a yearling weight EPD. The residual average daily gain EPD, or RADG EPD, is a more comprehensive EPD as it combines both feed intake and growth into one number. Residual average daily gain EPD describes genetic potential for post-weaning gain given a constant amount of feed. So you would be identifying animals that would eat the same amount but grow more. For example, Bull A has an RADG EPD of 0.75. Bull B has an RADG EPD of 0.25. The difference is 0.5 pounds. If you bred the two bulls to the same cows and raised the calves in the same way, on average, the calves from Bull A will gain half a pound more every day on the same amount of feed. We know that feed costs are high. Half a pound more average daily gain on the same amount of feed can impact an operation profitability significantly. We know that improvements in RADG means more growth for the same amount of feed, but it also means females who are able to maintain body condition better. It's correlated with increased conception rates and increased sustainability. Some frequent questions about feed efficiency. Does increasing feed efficiency lead to decreased performance? When you use the residual average daily gain EPD, which incorporates both feed intake and growth, you don't end up selecting for lower performance. Another question, what makes up a contemporary group for feed intake testing? You will need a contemporary group of 5 animals at minimum when feed intake testing. That means the animals need to be of the same sex, from the same herd, same year, same season, same birth type, and needed to have been in the same management group for birth weight, weaning weight, and yearling weight, and then be feed tested together. Another question, what's the difference between DMI, RFI, and RADG EPDs? DMI measures feed intake only. RFI tells you which animals eat less for the same amount of growth. RADG describes animals that grow more for the same amount of feed. Hopefully that answers all your questions about feed intake testing and the new RADG and DMI EPDs. Thanks very much.